The hospital fluorescent lights buzzed like dying insects, casting a sickly pale glow over the waiting room where Sarah Martinez had been sitting for the past 4 hours. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She'd pressed them between her knees, then folded them in her lap, then finally just let them tremble openly because what did it matter anymore? Nothing mattered except the 9-year-old boy lying in a sterile room 3 floors above her, his small body failing in ways she couldn't fix with love or prayer or the pathetic $23 left in her checking account. The coffee in the styrofoam cup had gone cold an hour ago, but Sarah kept holding it anyway, needing something to anchor her to reality. The waiting room smelled like antiseptic and desperation, a scent she'd become intimately familiar with over the past 6 months. 6 months since the diagnosis. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia, aggressive, fast-moving. 6 months of watching her son, her bright, baseball-loving, joke-telling boy, fade into someone she barely recognized. Miss Martinez? The voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. She looked up to see Dr. Patel standing in the doorway, his kind face lined with exhaustion and something worse. Pity. Sarah stood too quickly, the cold coffee sloshing over her hand. She didn't feel the burn. Is he okay? Can I see him? He's stable for now. Dr. Patel moved closer, lowering his voice. But we need to talk about the transplant. The donor we found in Germany, the specialist who's pioneered the treatment protocol. They're both available, but... He trailed off, and Sarah felt her stomach drop. But what? The cost. He handed her a folder, and Sarah's hands shook so badly she almost dropped it. She opened it anyway, even though she knew what she'd find. Numbers. Impossibly large numbers. $250,000 for the experimental treatment. Another $100,000 for travel, accommodations, post-treatment care. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Insurance won't cover it, Sarah said flatly. It wasn't a question. They've denied the claim 3 times. They're calling it experimental, high risk. Doctor. Patel's voice was gentle, but the words still hit like physical blows. Without this treatment, given how aggressive his case is, we're looking at maybe 3 months. With it, he has a 90% survival rate. 3 months, 90 days, 12 weeks to say goodbye to the child she'd carried, birthed, raised alone after his father walked out before his first birthday. 3 months to watch him waste away while she stood helpless. How much time do I have? Sarah's voice came out hoarse. To get the money? 2 weeks, maybe 3 at most. After that, the donor match expires, and we're back to square one. Dr. Patel put a hand on her shoulder. I'm sorry, Sarah. I wish there was another way. After he left, Sarah sat back down, the folder still clutched in her trembling hands. $350,000. She made $32,000 a year as a waitress at Mario's diner. She'd already maxed out 2 credit cards paying for the treatments insurance did cover. Her mother was dead, her father remarried and living in Florida with a new family he actually wanted. She had no siblings, no trust fund, no secret inheritance. She had nothing except a son who deserved to live. Sarah pulled out her phone with shaking hands and opened her banking app, even though she knew what she'd see. $23.67. She'd sold everything she could. Her car, her mother's jewelry, her laptop. She'd started a GoFundMe that had raised $12,000, generous strangers giving what they could, but nowhere near enough. The folder slipped from her hands, papers scattering across the waiting room floor. Sarah bent to gather them, her vision blurring with tears she'd been holding back for hours. Days, months. When a pair of expensive leather shoes appeared in her line of sight, she didn't look up, just kept gathering papers with shaking hands. You dropped this. The voice was deep, controlled, with the faint trace of an accent she couldn't quite place. Italian, maybe, or Mediterranean. A hand extended into her field of vision, holding the cost breakdown sheet, the one with all those impossible numbers. Sarah finally looked up and forgot how to breathe. The man standing over her was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair swept back from a face that looked carved from marble, sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw with just a hint of stubble, and eyes the color of aged whiskey that seemed to see straight through her. His suit probably cost more than her entire year's rent, charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes, tailored so perfectly it moved with him like a second skin. But it wasn't the expensive, clothes, or the devastating looks that made her breath catch. It was the aura of power that radiated from him, the kind of presence that made the entire waiting room seem to shrink. People didn't just look at him. They noticed him, the way you notice a predator in your peripheral vision. "Thank you," Sarah managed, taking the paper with trembling fingers. She stood quickly, trying to gather the rest of the scattered documents, but her hands weren't cooperating. "Let me." Before she could protest, he crouched down, moving with a grace that seemed at odds with his size, and began gathering the papers. His hands were strong, she noticed, with faint scars across the knuckles. Not the hands of someone who spent their days behind a desk. He handed her the stack, perfectly organized, and something in his expression shifted as his eyes scanned the top page. Leukemia treatment. Germany. His gaze moved to her face, assessing. "Your son?" Sarah nodded, not trusting her voice. She clutched the papers to her chest like a shield. "How old?" 9. The word came out as barely a whisper. "He's 9 years old, and he's dying, and I can't." Her voice cracked, the dam she'd built over 6 months finally crumbling. "I can't save him. I don't have the money. I don't have anything." She didn't know why she was telling this to a stranger. Maybe because he was a stranger, because after months of holding it together for doctors and nurses and her son, she'd finally found someone who didn't know her, didn't expect her to be strong. The man studied her for a long moment, those amber eyes unreadable. "Come with me." "What?" "There's a private consultation room on this floor. You look like you're about to collapse." It wasn't a request, exactly, but his tone wasn't unkind. 5 minutes. Then you can go back to your son. Sarah should have said no, should have recognized the danger in following a strange man, powerful and intense, to a private room. But exhaustion and desperation had worn down her survival instincts. She nodded. He led her down a hallway, past the main nurse's station where staff straightened noticeably at his presence, to a small conference room that looked like it was normally used for delivering bad news to families. The man held the door open, waiting for her to enter first, then closed it behind them. "Sit," he said, gesturing to one of the chairs. "Before you fall down." Sarah sat, her legs grateful for the support. The man didn't sit. Instead, he moved to stand by the window, hands in his pockets, looking out at the Chicago skyline stretched beyond the glass. The late afternoon sun cut through the clouds, casting everything in shades of gold and shadow. "What's your name?" he asked without turning around. "Sarah. Sarah Martinez." "And your son?" "Miguel. Everyone calls him Miggy." He turned then, leaning against the windowsill, arms crossed over his chest. "I'm going to ask you something. Sarah Martinez, and I need you to answer honestly." Her heart hammered. "Okay. If you had a way to save your son, would you take it, no matter what it cost you?" "Yes." The answer came without hesitation. "Anything. I'd do anything." Anything is a dangerous word. His eyes held hers, intense and searching. "People say it without understanding what it means. I mean it," Sarah said, her voice stronger now. "I would do anything to save my son. Sell everything I own. Work 3 jobs. I don't care. He's 9 years old, and he deserves to live." The man studied her for another long moment, and Sarah had the unsettling feeling he was weighing something, calculating odds in a game she didn't understand. Finally, he straightened, pulling out his phone. "How much do you need?" Sarah blinked. "I'm sorry?" "The treatment. Travel. Post-care. How much?" She looked down at the papers, still clutched in her hands. $350,000. "But I'm not asking you for money. I don't even know who you are." "Dante Caruso." He said it, simply, like the name should mean something. When she continued staring at him blankly, something that might have been amusement flickered across his face. "You really don't know who I am." "Should I?" "Most people in this city do." He tapped something on his phone, then looked back at her. "I can have the money transferred within the hour. Your son will get his treatment." Sarah's mind went blank. "What?" $350,000. I'll wire it to the hospital's account for Miguel Martinez's care. You can leave for Germany as soon as he's stable enough to travel." The room tilted. Sarah gripped the edge of the table, trying to process what he'd just said. "You're joking." "I don't joke about money. Why would you do this?" "You don't even know us." Suspicion crept in through the shock. "What do you want from me?" Dante Caruso moved closer, and Sarah fought the urge to lean back. He wasn't touching her, wasn't threatening her, but his proximity made her acutely aware of how much larger he was, how much power radiated from him. "I want you to marry me." The words hung in the air between them, impossible and insane. Sarah let out a shocked laugh. "You're crazy. Perhaps." His expression didn't change. "But I'm also serious. You want me to marry you in exchange for saving my son's life?" Her voice rose, anger cutting through the shock. That's sick. That's manipulation. It's a business transaction." His tone remained calm, matter of fact. "I need a wife. You need money. We both get what we want." Sarah stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "I'm not for sale. Everyone's for sale, Sarah. It's just a matter of price." He tilted his head, studying her. "And your price is your son's life. There's no shame in that. Get away from me." She moved toward the door, but his next words stopped her cold. "You have 2 weeks. After that, the donor match expires and your son dies. No other matches in the registry. I already checked. This is his only chance." She turned back slowly, her whole body trembling. "How do you know that?" "I make it my business to know things." He moved to the table, pulling out a chair and sitting with the casual confidence of someone who owned every room he entered. "Sit down, Sarah. Let me explain what I'm offering. I don't want to hear it." "Yes, you do. Because right now, you're trying to figure out how to get $350,000 in 2 weeks, and we both know that's impossible. So sit down and listen." Against every instinct screaming at her to run, Sarah sat. Because he was right. She had 2 weeks and no options, and her son was dying 3 floors above them. Dante Caruso leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled beneath his chin. "I'm going to be direct with you because I think you appreciate honesty. I'm a businessman with significant holdings in Chicago, restaurants, real estate, import-export. My family has been in this city for 3 generations. Your Mafia," Sarah said flatly. The pieces had clicked together. The expensive suit, the way hospital staff reacted to him, the casual mention of having information he shouldn't have access to, the name Caruso, which even she recognized from news reports about organized crime. A slight smile curved his lips. "I prefer entrepreneur. I prefer not to get involved with criminals." "Then your son dies." He said it without malice, just cold fact. "Those are your options, Sarah. Moral high ground or Miguel's life. You don't get both." Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Why me? If you need a wife for some business reason, there are plenty of women who would marry you for money. Women who actually know what they're getting into. That's exactly why not them." Dante's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "I need someone real. Someone not connected to my world. Someone who won't have ulterior motives beyond our agreement. You're a waitress, a single mother. No criminal record, no debts beyond medical bills. You're exactly what I need." "For what?" "Legitimacy." He stood, moving to pour water from a pitcher on the sideboard. He offered her a glass, and after a moment, she took it. "My businesses are diversifying, going legitimate. That process requires a certain image. A wife, a family, stability. It helps with permits, with city council, with federal scrutiny. So, I'm a prop. You're a partner in a mutually beneficial arrangement." He sat back down, leaning forward now, his intensity focused entirely on her. "Here's what I'm offering. I pay for all of Miguel's treatment. Immediately. Travel, specialists, whatever he needs. You and he live in my home, under my protection. You'll want for nothing. Food, clothes, security. In public, we present as a married couple. You attend events with me, play the role of devoted wife. And in private, separate bedrooms. Your life is your own, as much as is practical. I'm not interested in forcing 40. Anything you're not willing to give." His eyes held hers. "This is a business arrangement, Sarah. Nothing more, unless you decide otherwise." "For how long?" 2 years. After that, we divorce quietly. I'll provide you with a settlement. Enough to set you and Miguel up anywhere you want to go. Start fresh, no financial worries. It was insane. Completely, utterly insane. And yet, Sarah's mind was already calculating. 2 years of her life for Miguel's survival. 2 years of pretending to be someone's wife in exchange for her son, growing up, going to college, living the life he deserved. "I need to think about it," she said finally. "You have 30 seconds. Dante checked his watch, a gesture that somehow didn't come across as cruel, just pragmatic. After that, I have a meeting I can't miss. You can either come with me to my lawyer's office right now and sign the marriage license, or I walk away and you never see me again. Your choice. That's not fair. No, he agreed. It's not. But your son doesn't have time for fair. He has 2 weeks, and then he's gone. I'm offering you a way to save him. Right now. This moment. Sarah looked down at the papers in her hands, at all those impossible numbers. She thought about Miguel, 3 floors up, his small body ravaged by disease. Thought about his laugh, the way he still asked her to read to him before bed, how he wanted to be a veterinarian when he grew up because he loved animals. She thought about burying him in 3 months. If I agree. Her voice shook but held firm. I need things in writing. Legal documents. Protection for Miguel if something happens to me. College fund. Medical coverage for life. Dante's expression shifted to something that might have been respect. Smart. I'll have my lawyers draw up a complete contract. But I need your answer now, Sarah. Yes or no? She closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the moment crushing down on her. This was insane. Marrying a stranger, a criminal, selling herself, into a life she knew nothing about. But Miguel would live. Yes. The word came out as barely a whisper. She opened her eyes to find Dante watching her intently. Yes, I'll marry you. Tonight. Right now. Whatever it takes. Just save my son. For the first time since they'd met, Dante Caruso smiled. A real smile that reached his eyes and made him look almost human. Then let's go save your son, Mrs. Caruso. The lawyer's office was nothing like Sarah expected. She'd imagined something dark and intimidating, maybe with dim lighting and men in suits lurking in corners. Instead, it was sleek and modern, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Michigan Avenue, all glass and chrome and expensive art on the walls. Dante's lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Rebecca Torres, had everything ready. Marriage license, prenuptial agreement, medical power of attorney, trust documents for Miguel. She laid them out on the conference table with the efficiency of someone who'd done this before. Though her curious glances at Sarah suggested this particular arrangement was unusual even by her standards. Everything Mr. Caruso outlined is here, Rebecca said, sliding the stack of documents toward Sarah. I've highlighted where you need to initial and sign. Take your time reading through. Sarah's hands still trembled as she picked up the first document. The prenuptial agreement was 30 pages long, dense with legal language that made her head spin. I don't understand half of this. Let me summarize. Rebecca pulled up a chair beside her, and Sarah caught the scent of expensive perfume. Everything about Dante's world smelled expensive. You agree to marry Mr. Caruso and maintain the appearance of a legitimate marriage for a period of 24 months. In exchange, he covers all medical expenses for Miguel Martinez, provides housing, living expenses, security, and education costs. After 24 months, you receive a settlement of $5 million, a home in your name valued up to $2 million, and a trust fund for Miguel of $3 million. Sarah's vision blurred. Those numbers couldn't be real. $5 million? Plus the house and Miguel's trust, Rebecca confirmed. If Mr. Caruso dies during the marriage, you inherit everything as his legal spouse, with provisions for Miguel as his stepson. If you die, Miguel becomes Mr. Caruso's legal ward with full access to the medical trust and education fund. What if I want to leave before the 2 years? Rebecca's expression became carefully neutral. Then Miguel's medical expenses stop being covered, and you receive nothing. The contract also includes non-disclosure agreements. You cannot speak about Mr. Caruso's business dealings, his associates, or the nature of your arrangement to anyone. Violation results in legal action and forfeiture of all financial agreements. Sarah looked across the table to where Dante sat, his expression unreadable. You thought of everything. I don't leave things to us. Chance. He leaned forward slightly. But understand, Sarah, once you sign this, you're protected, not just financially, physically. You and Miguel become family, and I protect family. That means something in my world. What if someone finds out this isn't real? They won't. As far as anyone will know, we met months ago, fell in love quickly, decided to marry to help with Miguel's medical situation. His eyes held hers. You'll tell that story so many times, you'll start to believe it yourself. Sarah turned back to the documents, scanning through page after page of legalese. Her practical mind, the one that had balanced budgets and stretched paychecks for years, told her to walk away. This was insane, dangerous. She was signing her life away to a man she'd met an hour ago. But her mother's heart, the one that had held Miguel through every hospital stay, every terrifying diagnosis, every moment of watching him fade, that heart picked up the pen. She signed her name 37 times. When it was done, Rebecca gathered the documents with practiced efficiency. "I'll file the marriage license tonight. You'll be legally married by morning." She looked at Sarah with something that might have been sympathy. "Congratulations, Mrs. Caruso." Mrs. Caruso. The name sounded foreign, like it belonged to someone else entirely. Dante stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "Rebecca, initiate the wire transfer to Northwestern Memorial. Make sure it's processed tonight. I want Miguel Martinez cleared for treatment immediately." "Already done," Rebecca said. "The hospital administrator confirmed receipt 5 minutes ago. Dr. Patel has been notified." Sarah's legs went weak. It was real. The money was real. Miguel would get his treatment. "I need to see him," she said, standing too quickly. The room tilted, and suddenly Dante was there, his hand steady on her elbow. "When did you last eat?" "I don't know. Yesterday? This morning?" Time had become meaningless in the hospitals. Waiting rooms. "We'll stop for food on the way back to the hospital." His grip remained firm but not painful as he guided her toward the door. "You're no good to your son if you collapse." In the elevator, Sarah finally asked the question that had been gnawing at her. "Why didn't you just donate the money anonymously? Why the marriage?" Dante was quiet for a moment, watching the floor numbers descend. "I told you, I need legitimacy. But why me specifically? You saw me for 5 minutes in a hospital waiting room. The elevator doors opened to an underground parking garage. A black Mercedes waited, engine running, a broad-shouldered man standing beside it. Dante nodded to him. "Marco, this is Sarah Martinez. Soon to be Sarah Caruso. She's family now." Marco's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. "Ma'am." Dante opened the back door for her, and after a moment's hesitation, Sarah climbed in. The interior smelled like leather and that same expensive cologne he wore. He slid in beside her, and Marco took the driver's seat, pulling smoothly out of the garage. "You want the real answer?" Dante said finally. "I saw a mother willing to do anything to save her child, even marry a stranger, even enter a world she doesn't understand. That kind of love, that kind of strength, it's rare. And in my business, I'm surrounded by people who only love money and power." He turned to look at her, and something in his expression softened. "You reminded me that real things still exist. Real sacrifice, real love." Sarah didn't know what to say to that. Instead, she looked out the window as Chicago slipped past, the city transformed by her new reality. Somewhere in this city was the home she'd be living in, the life she'd be pretending to lead, the role she'd be playing. "I don't know how to be a mafia wife," she said quietly. "You'll learn." "And Sarah?" He waited until she looked at him. "You'll never have to do anything that compromises who you are. That's not what I want from you." "What do you want from me?" "To be exactly who you are. A good mother, a strong woman, someone real in a world full of performances." His phone buzzed, and he glanced at it. "We have company at the hospital. My mother heard about the marriage." Sarah's stomach dropped. "Your mother?" "Sophia Caruso. She'll want to meet you." He typed something on his phone. "She's protective, suspicious. Don't let her intimidate you." "Great. More terrifying people to meet." The corner of his mouth lifted. "You stood up to me. You'll survive my mother." They stopped at a small Italian restaurant, where the owner emerged immediately, greeting Dante like royalty. Within minutes, Sarah had fresh bread, pasta, and water in front of her. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until the food was there. She ate mechanically, barely tasting anything, her mind still reeling. Dante ate more slowly, watching her. "After you see Miguel tonight, Marco will take you to get clothes, everything you need, toiletries, anything. I have clothes, not for the world you're entering." It wasn't said unkindly, just fact. "Tomorrow, you'll meet with my stylist. She'll help you with everything else. I'm not a doll you can dress up." "No," he agreed. "You're my wife, and my wife needs to look like she belongs at my side. It's part of the role, Sarah. You agreed to this." She had. She'd signed the papers, made the deal, sold herself to save her son. The thought should have horrified her. Instead, she just felt numb. Back at the hospital, Sarah's first stop was Miguel's room. Her son was asleep, his small body dwarfed by the hospital bed, IVs running into his arm. He looked so fragile, his skin pale against the white sheets, dark circles under his eyes. But he was alive, and now he'd stay that way. Sarah sank into the chair beside his bed, taking his small hand in hers. "I've got you, baby," she whispered. "Mama's got you." "Miss Martinez?" Sarah looked up to see Dr. Patel in the doorway, but his expression was transformed. Where before there had been sympathy and helplessness, now there was excitement, hope. "The funds have been received," he said, coming into the room. "All of them. I've already contacted the specialists in Germany. They can take Miguel next week. We'll stabilize him here, get him strong enough for travel, then you'll both fly to Berlin. The treatment protocol starts immediately." Tears finally fell, silent and overwhelming. "He's going to live. He has every chance now, doctor." Patel's smile was genuine. "I don't know how you managed this, but you just saved your son's life." "No," Sarah thought, looking at Miguel's peaceful face. "I sold myself to save him." But that was a truth only she and Dante would ever know. After Dr. Patel left, Sarah became aware of another presence in the doorway. A woman stood there, older, maybe in her 60s, with perfectly styled silver hair and eyes that reminded Sarah uncomfortably of Dante's. Sharp, assessing, missing nothing. "So you're the waitress my son is marrying." Sarah stood slowly, keeping Miguel's hand in hers. "Mrs. Caruso. Sophia." The woman entered the room with the confidence of someone accustomed to getting exactly what she wanted. She looked at Miguel, and something in her expression softened. "How old?" 9. "And his father?" "Gone. Has been since Miggy was a baby." Sophia nodded, her gaze returning to Sarah. "Dante told me about the arrangement. The marriage, the treatment, all of it." Sarah's heart hammered. And I think my son is either very smart or very stupid. I haven't decided which yet." Sophia moved closer, studying Sarah's face with uncomfortable intensity. "You understand what you're agreeing to? The life you're entering?" "Not really," Sarah admitted. "But I understand my son gets to live. That's all that matters. A mother's love." Sophia's voice held notes Sarah couldn't quite identify. "It makes us do impossible things." She reached out, touching Miguel's forehead gently. "I had 3 sons, lost one to this life. Another is in prison. Dante is all I have left, and he's harder than the others ever were. Colder. Why are you telling me this?" "Because you need to understand what you've married into." Sophia's eyes met hers, and Sarah saw decades of pain there. "My son may call this a business arrangement, but nothing with the Carusos is ever just business. You're family now, whether you want to be or not. That means protection, yes, but it also means danger. It means targets on your back from people who want to hurt Dante by hurting those he cares about. He doesn't care about me. We just met. He cared enough to pay $350,000 and offer you millions more. He cared enough to give you his name." Sophia's expression was unreadable. "In our world, that means everything, and the people who hate him will know that now." The words sent ice through Sarah's veins. "You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to prepare you." Sophia touched Sarah's arm, and her grip was surprisingly gentle. "But I'm also telling you this. If you're good to my son, if you honor this arrangement and don't betray him, you'll want for nothing. The Carusos protect family. Always. And if I do betray him," Sophia's smile didn't reach her eyes, "then you'll learn why people fear the Caruso name." After Sophia left, Sarah sat in the dark hospital room, watching Miguel sleep. In one day, her entire life had transformed. She'd gone from desperate and helpless to protected and provided for. She'd married a stranger, entered a world she didn't understand, made herself a target for enemies she didn't know existed. But Miguel would live. And in the end, wasn't that all that mattered? The door opened again, and this time it was Dante. He looked tired, she noticed, the first crack in his perfect facade. He moved to stand beside her, looking down at Miguel. "He looks like you," Dante said quietly. "Same stubborn chin. He has his father's eyes. That's the only thing Jorge gave him before disappearing. Jorge Martinez. I had him checked out. Married someone else in Arizona. 2 kids, Works construction. Sarah's head snapped up. You investigated me? I investigate everyone. He didn't sound apologetic. Jorge hasn't paid child support in 7 years. Hasn't called, hasn't sent birthday cards. Nothing. You want me to make him uncomfortable about that? No. Sarah looked back at Miguel. He made his choice. We don't need him. You have me now. For better or worse. The wedding vow reference made Sarah's breath catch. They weren't married yet, technically. That wouldn't be official until morning. But in every way that mattered, she'd already committed. Marco's waiting to take you shopping, Dante said. Get what you need for tonight. Tomorrow my stylist will handle the rest. I should stay with Miguel. He's sleeping. He'll sleep through the night. They've got him on medication. You need rest, Sarah. Real rest. In a real bed. Where am I staying? My home. Our home now, I suppose. He touched her shoulder briefly. It's secure. Safe. You'll have your own room, your own space. But you'll be protected there in a way you can't be anywhere else. Sarah wanted to argue, but exhaustion was catching up with her. The adrenaline that had carried her through the past hours was fading, leaving only bone-deep weariness. Okay, she said finally, but I want to be back here first thing in the morning. I'll have Marco bring you whenever you want. Dante helped her stand, and for a moment they were close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. Smell that expensive cologne mixed with something uniquely him. You did good today, Sarah. Signing those papers, making the hard choice. Not many people have that kind of strength. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. You just chose your son over everything else. That's not weakness. That's love. The shopping trip was surreal. Marco drove her to what appeared to be a high-end boutique that should have been closed at 10 p.m. But the owner was waiting. All smiles and deference to Mr. Caruso's guest. Sarah ended up with bags full of clothes she'd never normally wear, designer labels and price tags that made her dizzy. The owner kept assuring her everything was perfect. Everything was exactly what Mr. Caruso had requested. By the time they arrived at Dante's house, Sarah was too exhausted to be properly intimidated by the mansion in front of her. It was beautiful, she registered that much. A sprawling estate in Lincoln Park, with iron gates and security cameras, and perfectly manicured grounds. Marco led her inside, through a marble foyer with a chandelier that probably cost more than her entire apartment building, up a sweeping staircase to the second floor. Your room, ma'am, he said, opening a door. The bedroom was bigger than her entire apartment. King-sized bed with what looked like silk sheets, an ensuite bathroom with a soaking tub, floor-to-ceiling windows with heavy curtains. It was beautiful and impersonal, like a 5-star hotel room. Mr. Caruso's room is at the end of the hall, Marco continued. If you need anything during the night, press the button by the bed. Someone will come. Someone is always here. Someone is always watching, ma'am. For your protection. After he left, Sarah stood in the middle of the luxurious room, still holding her bags. This was her life now. This mansion, this protection, this performance. She set the bags down and moved to the window. Beyond the perfectly landscaped grounds, she could see Chicago's skyline glittering in the distance. Somewhere in that city was the hospital where her son slept. Tomorrow she'd go back to him, hold his hand while doctors explained the treatment plan, tell him everything would be okay. She wouldn't tell him about Dante. Not yet. She'd figure out how to explain that later, how to introduce the man who'd saved his life. The man who was now technically his stepfather. The man Sarah had married without love or courtship or any of the things that were supposed to come before vows. A soft knock on the door made her turn. Come in. Dante entered, and something about seeing him here, in this private space, made everything feel more real. He'd removed his suit jacket, loosened his tie. He looked more human somehow, less like the intimidating stranger from the hospital. Everything you need? He asked. More than I need. Marco bought out half a store. He has instructions to get you whatever you want. No limits. Dante moved further into the room, and Sarah noticed he kept his distance, staying near the door. I wanted to go over the schedule for tomorrow. The marriage license will be official by 9 a.m. I'll have my lawyers deliver your copies. At 10, we meet with Dr. Patel to discuss Miguel's travel arrangements. At 2, you meet with my stylist. Your mother said people will try to hurt you through me now. Dante's expression hardened. My mother talks too much. Is it true? Yes, He didn't sugarcoat it. You're a target now, Sarah. You and Miguel both. That's why you need security, why you can't go anywhere without Marco or one of my other men. Why this house has cameras and guards and protocols. Fear crawled up Sarah's spine. What have I done? You saved your son. Dante moved closer, but still maintained that careful distance. And I'll keep you both safe. That's my part of this arrangement. You pretend to be my wife. I keep you alive. Romantic. We're not Romeo and Juliet. We're business partners who happen to share a last name. But something in his eyes suggested it wasn't quite that simple. Get some sleep, Sarah. Tomorrow starts our new life. After he left, Sarah finally let herself process everything. She'd married a mobster, moved into his mansion, made herself and her son targets for his enemies. But as she lay in the enormous bed, staring at the ceiling, all she could think about was Miguel. About how his cancer would be treated. How he'd grow up, healthy and strong. How he'd go to college, become a veterinarian, live the life he'd always dreamed of. For that, she'd play any role, pretend to be anyone, even the wife of Chicago's most dangerous man. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Sarah woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and had 3 seconds of peace before reality crashed back. The mansion, the marriage, Dante. She sat up quickly, grabbing her phone from the nightstand. 7 a.m. She'd slept 4 hours, the most she'd gotten in weeks. There was a text from an unknown number. Car ready whenever you want to go to hospital. Marco. Sarah showered quickly in the marble bathroom, still overwhelmed by the luxury of it all. Hot water that never ran cold, thick towels that felt like clouds, expensive soaps that smelled like lavender and honey. She dressed in one of the outfits from last night's shopping trip, dark jeans and a soft sweater that probably cost more than her weekly grocery budget used to. When she emerged from her room, a woman was waiting in the hallway, older, maybe 50s, with kind eyes and an expression that suggested nothing surprised her anymore. Mrs. Caruso, the woman said, and Sarah flinched at the name. I'm Teresa. I manage the house. Mr. Caruso asked me to make sure you have everything you need. I'm fine, thank you. Breakfast is ready in the kitchen. Mr. Caruso left for a meeting an hour ago, but he said to tell you Marco will drive you wherever you need to go. The kitchen was commercial grade, all stainless steel and granite. A full breakfast spread waited, more food than Sarah could eat in a week. She picked at some fruit and toast, her stomach too nervous to handle more. Marco appeared exactly when she was ready to leave, like he'd been monitoring her somehow. Maybe he had. Everything about this house felt watched. The hospital was quiet at 8 a.m. The morning shift just beginning. Sarah made her way to Miguel's room, her heart lighter than it had been in months. He was awake, sitting up in bed with a breakfast tray in front of him. Mama! His face lit up when he saw her, and Sarah's chest tightened. This was why she'd signed those papers, made that deal. For this smile, this moment, this boy. Hey, baby. She hugged him carefully, mindful of his IV. How are you feeling? Dr. Patel said I get to go to Germany, that there's a special treatment that'll make me better. His eyes, Jorge's eyes, were bright with hope for the first time in months. Is it true, Mama? Am I really going to get better? Yes, Sarah's voice cracked. You're going to get better, I promise. But how? Did the GoFundMe? No, baby. We got help. From someone very kind. Sarah took a breath, knowing she had to start explaining. His name is Dante, and he's going to help us with a lot of things. Like an angel? More like the devil, Sarah thought. But what she said was, like a friend, a very good friend who wants to see you get healthy. Dr. Patel arrived shortly after with the treatment coordinator, a brisk German woman named Dr. Schneider who'd flown in specifically to discuss Miguel's case. They went over everything. The flight to Berlin in 5 days, the month-long intensive treatment protocol, the recovery timeline. Your son will need someone with him throughout, Dr. Schneider said, looking at Sarah. The treatment is aggressive. He'll be sick, exhausted. He'll need his mother. I'll be there, Sarah promised. Every minute. After they left, Miguel was tired, the excitement wearing him out. Sarah stayed with him as he drifted back to sleep, holding his hand, memorizing his face. The stylist appointment was at 2. She had hours yet. Hours to just be a mother, not a mob wife. But at 1:30, Marco appeared in the doorway, a quiet reminder that her other life was waiting. The stylist, a woman named Giovanna, who spoke with a thick Italian accent and had opinions about everything, took one look at Sarah and got to work. Hair, makeup, nails, clothes, everything was assessed and adjusted. Mr. Caruso, he has specific image, Giovanna explained, brushing Sarah's long dark hair with expert strokes. Elegant, classic, not flashy, but expensive. You understand? Not really. You will. Giovanna met her eyes in the mirror. You're a pretty girl. Natural. We work with that. Make you look like you belong with someone like Mr. Caruso. 3 hours later, Sarah barely recognized herself. Her hair had been cut and styled, falling in soft waves around her face. Her nails were manicured, subtle and elegant. Giovanna had shown her how to apply makeup in a way that enhanced without being obvious. Tomorrow, we shop for real, Giovanna said. Tonight, Mr. Caruso is taking you to dinner. Public appearance. You'll wear this. She held up a dress, simple but clearly expensive. A deep blue that brought out Sarah's eyes. I never agreed to dinner. Is part of arrangement, yes? You be his wife. His wife goes to dinner. Giovanna's expression softened slightly. He's not bad man, Mr. Caruso. Dangerous, yes, but not bad. You could do worse. That evening, Sarah stood in front of the mirror in her bedroom, wearing the blue dress and heels that made her 3 inches taller. She looked like someone else, someone who belonged in this mansion, at a mobster's side, someone who wasn't her. A knock on the door. Come in. Dante entered, and for a moment, they just looked at each other. He was in another perfect suit, this one charcoal gray with a midnight blue tie that matched her dress. Had that been planned? You look beautiful, he said finally. I look expensive. That too. He moved closer. And Sarah saw something shift in his expression. You don't have to do this tonight. If you're not ready. I signed the contract. Forget the contract for a minute. His eyes searched hers. Are you okay? Really? The question surprised her, as did the genuine concern in his voice. I don't know what I am. Grateful, terrified, guilty. Guilty? Miguel doesn't know yet. About you. About the marriage. I told him you were a friend helping us. We'll tell him together. When you're ready. Dante offered his arm. Tonight is simple. Dinner at my restaurant. You meet some people, smile, play the role of loving wife. That's all. That's all, Sarah repeated, taking his arm. His muscles were solid beneath the expensive fabric, reminding her that this man wasn't just rich and powerful, he was dangerous. The restaurant was called Rosso's, and it was exactly the kind of place Sarah had never been able to afford. Dim lighting, live music, waiters in crisp white shirts moving with practiced efficiency. Every eye turned when they entered. Dante's hand moved to the small of her back, possessive and claiming. Smile, he murmured. You're madly in love with me, remember? Sarah managed a smile, hoping it looked genuine. They were led to a private table in the back, and almost immediately, people began approaching. Men in expensive suits who shook Dante's hand with too much deference. Their wives who looked at Sarah with curiosity and calculation. Dante, I heard about the marriage. Congratulations. Such a surprise. When did you two meet? She's lovely. Absolutely lovely. Sarah played her role, letting Dante answer most of the questions, adding brief comments when needed. They'd met through a mutual friend. Yes, it had been quick, but when you know, you know. No, big wedding. They'd wanted something intimate, given her son's medical situation. The lies came easier than Sarah expected, maybe because pieces of them were true. There was a son with a medical situation. There had been. A quick decision. The only lie was the love. During a rare moment alone, while Dante spoke with the sommelier, an older man approached their table. He was distinguished, silver-haired, with cold eyes that reminded Sarah uncomfortably of a shark. Mrs. Caruso, a pleasure to finally meet you. I'm sorry, have we met? Victor Marchetti. He extended a hand, and Sarah shook it automatically. His grip was too tight, too long. I'm an old friend of the family, I was very surprised to hear about Dante's sudden marriage. Something in his tone made Sarah's skin crawl. It wasn't that sudden. No? Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. Because I have people who watch things in this city. And 2 days ago, you were a waitress living in a one-bedroom apartment in a bad neighborhood. Today you're married to one of Chicago's most eligible bachelors. That seems rather sudden to me. Sarah's heart hammered, but she kept her expression neutral. I don't know what you're implying. Implying anything, my dear. I'm simply curious. He leaned closer, and Sarah smelled whiskey on his breath. About what a man like Dante Caruso gains from marrying a nobody. About what business arrangement might require such a sudden commitment. Victor. Dante's voice cut through the moment like a blade. He was suddenly there, standing beside their table, his expression cold as winter. You're bothering my wife. Just offering my congratulations. Victor straightened, but his smile remained predatory. Such a beautiful bride. You're a lucky man, Dante. I know. Dante's hand found Sarah's shoulder, the touch both protective and claiming. Now, if you'll excuse us, we were having a private dinner. After Victor left, Sarah's hands shook. She clasped them in her lap, hoping Dante wouldn't notice. He knows, she whispered. He knows this isn't real. Victor suspects. He doesn't know. Dante's jaw was tight. And suspicion isn't proof. Who is he? Someone who used to do business with my family. Someone who wasn't happy when I started going legitimate. Dante's eyes followed Victor's departure. Someone you need to avoid. He approached me. And now he won't again. I'll make sure of it. Dante turned back to her, and his expression softened. I'm sorry. I should have warned you about people like him. They'll test you, try to find weaknesses. You did well. Didn't you panic? Didn't confirm anything? I wanted to run, but you didn't. That's what matters. His hand covered hers, warm and steady. You're stronger than you think, Sarah. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. More people, more questions, more lies. By the time they left, Sarah's face hurt from smiling. In the car, she slumped against the leather seat, exhausted. You did good tonight, Dante said. Everyone believes it. Victor doesn't. Victor's a problem I'll handle. He was quiet for a moment. Sarah, I need to tell you something. Tomorrow, I'm flying to New York for 3 days. Business I can't postpone. Sarah's head snapped up. You're leaving? Marco will stay with you. Full security team. You'll be safe. I don't want to be here alone. You won't be alone. There are 12 people working in that house, plus security. And Miguel needs you at the hospital. He met her eyes. I'll be back before you fly to Germany. I promise. That night, back in the mansion, Sarah couldn't sleep. She stood at the window, looking out at the city, feeling like an imposter in someone else's life. There was a soft knock at her door. Come in. Dante entered, still dressed, though he'd loosened his tie. I saw your light on. Couldn't sleep. He moved to stand beside her at the window. They stood in silence for a moment. Two strangers bound by contracts and necessity. When I was Miguel's age, Dante said suddenly, my father took me to my first business meeting. I didn't understand what was happening, just that everyone seemed afraid of him. Afterward, he told me that fear and respect were the same thing, that to be powerful, you had to be feared. Do you believe that? I used to. He turned to look at her. Then I met a woman willing to sign her life away to save her child. Not because she feared anything, but because she loved someone more than herself. That's not fear. That's something else entirely. Something stronger. I don't feel strong. I feel terrified. Courage isn't the absence of fear, Sarah. It's moving forward despite it. His hand touched her shoulder briefly. You're going to be fine. Better than fine. You and Miguel both. After he left, Sarah finally climbed into bed. She thought about his words, about courage and fear, and the strange man who'd bought her son's life with a contract. She thought about Miguel, sleeping peacefully in a hospital bed, unaware that his mother had married a stranger to save him. And she thought about the next 2 years, the role she'd play, the lies she'd tell, the danger she'd face. But mostly, she thought about how Miguel would live, and somehow, that made everything else bearable. The plane to Berlin left on a gray Tuesday morning, 5 days after Sarah signed her life away. Miguel was stable enough to travel, bundled in a wheelchair with a blanket across his lap, and excitement in his eyes despite his exhaustion. He thought they were going on an adventure. Sarah knew better. They were going to war against the disease trying to steal her son. Dante had returned from New York the night before, arriving at the mansion near midnight. Sarah had been in the kitchen, unable to sleep, when she heard the front door open. He'd found her there, sitting at the counter with cold tea and racing thoughts. "You should be resting," he'd said, loosening his tie as he entered. "Long flight tomorrow. I can't stop thinking about everything that could go wrong." He'd poured himself whiskey, then sat across from her. "The treatment has a 90% success rate. Miguel's young, strong. He'll make it through. And if he's in the 10%? Dante had been quiet for a long moment. "Then we try something else. Find another specialist, another treatment. I don't accept defeat, Sarah. Neither should you." Now, standing in O'Hare's private terminal, watching Miguel's face light up at the sight of Dante's private jet, Sarah felt something shift in her chest. This man, this dangerous stranger she'd married, was making her son smile, was giving him hope. "Whoa!" Miguel breathed as they climbed the stairs. "This is so cool. Mama, look at this." The jet's interior was all cream leather and polished wood. There were only 12 seats, each one bigger than Sarah's old couch. A flight attendant waited with warm smiles and offers of snacks. "Mr. Caruso, Mrs. Caruso, welcome aboard." "Mrs. Caruso." Sarah still flinched every time she heard it. Dante helped Miguel into a seat that reclined like a bed, then turned to Sarah. "I had them stock his favorite foods, and there's a TV at each seat. He can watch whatever he wants. You didn't have to do all this." "Yes, I did." His voice was low, meant only for her. "He's important to you. That makes him important to me." Sarah didn't know how to respond to that. They'd been married less than a week. This was supposed to be business, transactional, but the way Dante looked at Miguel, patient and gentle, suggested something more complicated was happening. The flight was 8 hours. Miguel slept for most of it, the medication and exhaustion finally catching up. Sarah dozed fitfully in the seat beside him, jerking awake every time the plane hit turbulence, her hand automatically reaching for her son. Dante worked across the aisle, laptop open, phone pressed to his ear more often than not. She caught fragments of conversation, mentions of shipments and contracts and territories, the legitimate businessman veneer slipping to reveal the world beneath. "You're staring," he said at one point, catching her watching him. "Just trying to figure you out. Let me know if you succeed. I've been trying for 36 years. He closed the laptop. "How's he doing?" "Sleeping. Finally resting." Sarah looked at Miguel's peaceful face. "Thank you. For all of this. The jet, the treatment, everything. We had an agreement. I know, but still, thank you." Something softened in Dante's expression. "You don't have to keep thanking me, Sarah. This is what family does. We take care of each other. We're not really family, aren't we?" He gestured to Miguel. "I'm legally his stepfather now. You're my wife. That's family, regardless of how we got here." Berlin was cold and gray, rain falling steadily as they landed at a private airfield. 2 black cars waited, along with 4 men in dark suits who moved with the same predatory grace as Dante's Chicago security. "Marco stayed in Chicago," Dante explained as they were ushered into the first car. "But these men work for me. They'll keep you safe while you're here." "Safe? From what?" "We're in Germany for medical treatment." Dante's jaw tightened. "My enemies don't respect international borders, Sarah. And the word is out about our marriage. That makes you a target anywhere." The hospital was sleek and modern, all glass and steel in the heart of Berlin. Dr. Schneider met them in the lobby, her efficiency somehow comforting despite the circumstances. "Miguel, welcome. We're going to take very good care of you." She knelt to his level, and Sarah appreciated that she spoke directly to her son, not over him. "The treatment will be hard. You'll feel sick sometimes. But every day, we're fighting to make you better. Can you be brave for me?" Miguel looked at Sarah, then at Dante, who'd positioned himself at Sarah's shoulder like a guardian. "I can be brave. Good boy." Dr. Schneider stood. "Let's get you settled." Miguel's room was on the pediatric oncology floor, painted in cheerful colors that couldn't quite hide what happened here. Other children, sick like Miguel, fighting battles their small bodies shouldn't have to fight. They started treatment that afternoon. Sarah held Miguel's hand while Dr. Schneider explained the protocol, the medications that would flood his system, the stem cells from the German donor that would rebuild what the cancer had destroyed. "I need to go back to Chicago," Dante said that evening, after Miguel had finally fallen asleep, pumped full of anti-nausea medication and exhaustion. Sarah's head snapped up. They were in the family lounge, a quiet space away from the beeping monitors and antiseptic smells. "What? When?" "Tomorrow morning. I've been gone too long already. I have business I can't handle remotely." He moved closer, his voice low. "Klaus will stay with you. He's the best security I have in Europe. Anything you need, anything at all, you tell him." "I thought you'd stay." "So did I." Something crossed his face, an emotion Sarah couldn't quite read. Frustration, maybe. Or regret. "But I have responsibilities. Sarah. People depending on me. I can't just disappear for a month." "Of course." She looked away, surprised by how much his leaving bothered her. "We'll be fine." "Sarah." He touched her chin, gently turning her face back to his. "I'll call every day. Video chat so you can show me how Miguel's doing. And I'll be back in 2 weeks, before the critical phase of treatment. I promise." "You don't owe me promises. This is just business, remember?" His thumb brushed her cheek, the touch so unexpected that Sarah's breath caught. "Is it?" he asked softly. "Still just business?" Before she could answer, his phone rang. He stepped away to take it, and the moment shattered. That night, alone in the hotel suite Dante had arranged near the hospital, Sarah finally let herself cry. Great, heaving sobs that she'd been holding back for days, weeks, months. She cried for Miguel, for the treatment he'd have to endure. She cried for the life she'd left behind, simple and struggling but hers. She cried for the strange limbo she existed in now, married but not really, protected but imprisoned, grateful but terrified. When her phone rang at 2 a.m., she almost didn't answer, but the screen showed Dante's name. "Hello? I'm sorry." His voice was rough, tired. "For leaving, for not being able to stay." "It's fine. Really." "No, it's not. I can hear it in your voice." A pause. "Are you crying?" "No, Sarah. I'm fine, just tired." She wiped her eyes, hating that he could read her even over the phone. "Miguel starts the heavy treatment tomorrow. Dr. Schneider says the next 72 hours are critical." "I know. I spoke with her before I left." Another pause. "Do you want me to come back?" "Yes," she thought. "Yes, because somehow in less than a week, you've become the only thing that makes this bearable." But what she said was, "No, we'll manage." "That's not what I asked." Sarah closed her eyes. "I don't know what I want anymore, Dante. A week ago, my only concern was keeping the lights on and getting Miguel through another day. Now I'm living in luxury, married to a man I barely know, in a foreign country watching my son fight for his life. I don't know what I want. That's honest, at least." His voice softened. "Get some sleep, Sarah. Call me tomorrow after the treatment. I want to know how he's doing." "Why? Why what? Why do you care? This is supposed to be transactional. Business. You paid for treatment. I play the wife. Why do you actually care how Miguel's doing?" Silence on the other end. Then, "Because seeing you fight for him reminded me what real love looks like. And because he's a good kid who deserves a chance. And because," he trailed off, because you're both mine now. Mine to protect. Mine to care for. That's how this works in my world, Sarah. When you're family, you're family. There's no halfway." After they hung up, Sarah lay in the dark, processing his words. Mine to protect. Mine to care for. Possessive and intense, and somehow, despite everything, comforting. The next 72 hours were hell. Miguel was violently sick, his small body rejecting the treatment, even as it worked to save him. Sarah held him through it all, barely sleeping, barely eating, just being there like she'd promised. Klaus, Dante's security man, was a silent presence outside the hospital room. He brought her food she didn't eat, coffee that went cold, quiet reassurances in accented English that Dr. Schneider said this was normal, expected, part of the process. On the fourth day, Miguel's fever broke. He opened his eyes, and though he was weak and pale, he smiled at her. "Hi, Mama." "Hi, baby." Sarah brushed his sweat-dampened hair back. "How are you feeling?" "Tired. But Dr. Schneider says I'm doing good, that the treatment is working." "You're doing amazing. So brave." She kissed his forehead. "I'm so proud of you. Is Dante coming back?" The question surprised her. "What?" "Dante. He said he'd come back to check on me." "Is he coming?" "I don't know, sweetheart. He's busy with work." Miguel's face fell. "Oh, okay." Sarah's heart clenched. Her son had spent 9 years with an absent father. Now he was attaching to Dante, the man who'd bought their way out of desperation, the man who would only be in their lives for 2 years before the contract ended. That evening, she called Dante. He answered on the first ring. "How is he?" "Better. Fever broke." "Doctor, Schneider says he's through the worst of it." Sarah took a breath. "He asked about you. Did he?" "He wants to know when you're coming back." A pause. "Tell him I'll be there in 10 days. And Sarah?" "Yes?" "I'm glad he's better. I've been." He stopped. "I've been worried." After they hung up, Sarah stood at the hotel window, looking out at Berlin's nighttime skyline. This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to start depending on Dante's calls, looking forward to his check-ins, missing his presence. And Miguel definitely wasn't supposed to start caring about a man who'd only be in their lives temporarily. But hearts didn't follow contracts. They did what they wanted, felt what they wanted, regardless of the deals made in lawyers' offices. The days blurred together. Treatment, recovery, small victories, setbacks, moments of hope punctuated by flashes of fear. Sarah lived at the hospital, sleeping in the chair beside Miguel's bed, Klaus always watching from the doorway. True to his word, Dante called every day, sometimes just to check on Miguel's progress, sometimes to talk about nothing, distracting her with stories about Chicago, his legitimate businesses, carefully edited versions of his world. "I'm opening a new restaurant," he told her one night, "in River North. I want you to help design the interior when you get back. I don't know anything about restaurant design. You have taste. You have opinions. That's all I need." A pause. "I want you involved, Sarah. In my businesses, my life. Not just playing. A role at public events. Why? Because you're smart. Because I value your perspective. Because..." He stopped, and Sarah heard something in the background. Voices. Urgent. "I have to go. Something's come up. I'll call tomorrow." The line went dead before she could respond. Dante didn't call the next day, or the day after that. By the third day of silence, Sarah's worry had transformed into something sharper. Fear. She tried his number repeatedly, straight to voicemail. Klaus noticed her agitation. "Mrs. Caruso, is something wrong? I haven't heard from Dante in 3 days. That's not like him." Klaus's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. Concern. "I'll make inquiries." He stepped into the hallway, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid German. When he returned, his face was carefully blank. "There's been an incident in Chicago. Mr. Caruso is handling it." "What kind of incident?" "I don't have details, ma'am. But he's safe. Just occupied." Occupied. The word felt ominous. That night, Sarah finally got a text. Not a call, just a message. "Sorry for silence. Situation complicated. You and Miguel safe? That's what matters. Will explain when I can." She stared at the message, reading between the lines. Something had happened. Something dangerous enough that he couldn't risk talking on the phone. Something that reduced their relationship to this. Practical updates. Confirmation of safety. Nothing more. She texted back, "We're fine. Miguel's responding well to treatment. Be careful." His response came immediately. "Always am. Miss talking to you." 3 words that shouldn't have made her chest tighten, but did. 10 days became 12, then 14. Dante's promised return date came and went with only a terse message. "Can't leave Chicago yet. Sorry." Miguel noticed. "Is Dante okay, Mama?" "He's fine, baby. Just busy with work. He promised he'd come back." "I know." Sarah held her son's hand, hating that another man was disappointing him, even if Dante had legitimate reasons. Sometimes grown-ups have responsibilities they can't postpone. Like you. You always have to work. Like me. Sarah agreed. Except Dante's work involved things Sarah didn't want to think about. Violence and power and the dark underworld he'd promised to protect her from. On day 16, Miguel was declared stable enough to enter the recovery phase. Dr. Schneider was pleased with his progress. Another 2 weeks of monitoring, then you can return to Chicago. He'll need continued treatment there, but the crisis has passed. That night, Sarah allowed herself to hope. Really hope. For the first time since the diagnosis, her son would live. He'd grow up, have a future. She was sitting in Miguel's room, watching him sleep peacefully for once, when her phone rang. Finally, Dante. Sarah. His voice sounded rough, exhausted. I'm sorry. I know I've been silent. What happened? Victor Marchetti happened. The name sent ice through Sarah's veins. The man from the restaurant, the one with shark eyes who'd questioned their marriage. He made a move, thought my being out of the country left an opening. He was wrong. Are you hurt? No. But 2 of my men are in the hospital, and Victor's organization is in shambles. It's been handled. He paused. How's Miguel? Good. Really good. Dr. Schneider says he's through the worst of it. Thank God. The relief in his voice was palpable. I'll be there in 48 hours. I promise, Sarah. No more delays. You don't have to come. We're fine. I know I don't have to. I want to. His voice dropped lower. I've missed you. Both of you. More than I expected to. After they hung up, Sarah processed what he'd said. I've missed you. More than I expected to. This was supposed to be business. Supposed to be simple. But nothing about this was simple anymore. Dante arrived on a rainy Thursday morning, 2 days before Miguel was cleared to travel home. Sarah was in the family lounge, catching up on emails, when Klaus appeared in the doorway. Mrs. Caruso. Mr. Caruso is here. Her heart kicked against her ribs. She stood too quickly, smoothing her clothes, suddenly nervous. Why was she nervous? This was just business. Just her fake husband checking on their arrangement. Except when Dante appeared in the doorway, travel-worn and exhausted, the first thing he did was cross the room and pull her into his arms. Sarah froze for a moment, shocked by the embrace. Then, without meaning to, she melted into it. He was solid and warm, and she realized with startling clarity that she'd been terrified for him during the silence. Terrified that Victor Marchetti or one of Dante's other enemies would succeed in hurting him. I'm sorry, he murmured against her hair. I'm sorry I couldn't call. I'm sorry I left you alone. I'm sorry for all of it. You're here now. Her arms wrapped around him without her permission, holding on like he might disappear again. That's what matters. When they finally pulled apart, his hand stayed on her cheek, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. You look exhausted. So do you. 2 weeks of war will do that. He studied her face like he was memorizing it. Show me, Miguel. I need to see him. They walked to Miguel's room together, and Sarah watched as Dante's entire demeanor transformed. The hard edges softened. The cold calculation in his eyes warmed. When Miguel saw him, the boy's face lit up. Dante, you came back. I promised, didn't I? Dante moved to the bedside, and Sarah's breath caught as he carefully hugged her son. I hear you've been very brave. The treatment was really hard. But I'm getting better. Dr. Schneider says I might get to go home soon. That's wonderful. Dante glanced at the IV lines, the monitors, the evidence of everything Miguel had endured. Something dark crossed his face. You've been taking care of your mom while I was gone? She takes care of me. I know. She's good at that. Dante's eyes found Sarah's across the bed. But who takes care of her? That evening, after Miguel fell asleep, Dante and Sarah had dinner at the hotel. He'd insisted, saying she needed to eat something that wasn't hospital cafeteria food. They sat at a quiet table overlooking the city, and for the first time in weeks, Sarah felt herself relax. Tell me about Chicago, she said. The truth this time. Dante took a drink of his wine, considering. Victor Marchetti tried to stage a coup. Thought with me distracted, he could take over my territories. He was working with the Colombo family, feeding them information, positioning himself as the new power in Chicago. What did you do? I reminded everyone why they fear the Caruso name. His voice was cold now, distant. Victor's in the wind. His lieutenants are either dead or working for me now. The Colombos apologized and retreated to New York. Sarah's stomach turned. You killed people. Yes, no apology. No justification. Just truth. And you're telling me this because... Because you deserve to know who you married, Sarah. What I really am. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. I'm not a good man. I do things that would horrify you. I've hurt people, killed people, built my empire on blood and fear. Then why the legitimate businesses? Why go through all this to clean up your image? Because I'm tired. The admission seemed to surprise him. Tired of looking over my shoulder. Tired of war. My father built this organization on violence. My brother died in a rival family's attack. I don't want that life anymore. I want something different. What do you want? Peace, stability, a life where I don't have to kill someone to protect what's mine. His hand covered hers on the table. I want what you have with Miguel. That kind of love. That kind of purpose. Sarah's throat tightened. You can't buy that, Dante. I know, but maybe. He trailed off, his thumb tracing patterns on her hand. Maybe I can build it, starting with this, with you and Miguel, with something real. This isn't real. It's a contract. Is it? His eyes held hers, and Sarah saw something vulnerable there. Something that made her chest ache. Because it doesn't feel like a contract anymore, Sarah. Not to me. Before she could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at it, and his expression hardened. I have to take this. He stepped away, and Sarah watched him through the window, his posture tense, his words sharp, even though she couldn't hear them. This was the real Dante Caruso, the dangerous man who killed to protect his empire. The criminal. Her practical mind knew she should fear. But her heart, treacherous and stupid, was starting to feel something else entirely. When he returned to the table, his mask was back in place. We need to go back to Chicago tomorrow. But Miguel isn't cleared for travel until Saturday. I know, but something's come up. I need to handle it personally, and I can't leave you here without. His jaw clenched. The Colombos are making noise again, and there are rumors that someone put a contract out on my wife. The blood drained from Sarah's face. What? It's probably nothing. Rumors designed to rattle me, but I can't take that chance. His hand gripped hers tightly. You and Miguel need to come home. Doctor, Schneider can arrange continued treatment in Chicago. We'll use Northwestern Memorial, where we have security protocols already in place. Someone wants to kill me. Sarah's voice came out hollow. Because I married you. No one is going to touch you. I won't allow it. The fierce protectiveness in his voice should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel safer than she had in weeks. Pack tonight. We leave first thing tomorrow. Klaus will handle everything. That night, lying in the hotel bed, Sarah couldn't sleep. She thought about contracts and reality, about fake marriages that felt increasingly real, about dangerous men who killed to protect what was theirs. She thought about Miguel, getting better, his future secure because she'd made a deal with the devil. And she thought about Dante, complicated and dangerous and unexpectedly gentle, who'd inserted himself into their lives and refused to remain at arm's length. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dante, who was staying in the suite next door. Can't sleep either? She responded, too much to process. Want company? We could talk, or just sit, whatever you need. Sarah stared at the message for a long moment. Then she got up and opened her door. Dante stood in the hallway, wearing just sleep pants and a t-shirt that revealed more of his body than she'd seen before. Muscled and scarred, evidence of a violent life. Hi, she said softly. Hi. He didn't move, waiting for her invitation. Sarah stepped back, holding the door open. He entered, and they stood in her room, the air between them charged with something neither of them wanted to name. I'm scared, Sarah admitted. Of going home. Of the threats. Of all of this. I know. He moved closer, but didn't touch her. I'm sorry. I never meant for you to be in danger. Yes, you did. You knew marrying you would make me a target. You warned me that first day. You're right. I did. His eyes searched hers. Do you regret it? Signing those papers? Sarah thought about Miguel, sleeping peacefully in a hospital bed, his body healing, his future bright. No, I don't regret it. Even knowing what you know now? About me? About what I've done? You're a criminal and probably a monster. She said it without malice, just fact. But you saved my son. You've protected us. You've been, she searched for the word, kind. In your own way, kind. He laughed, the sound bitter. That's not a word most people use for me. Most people don't know you. And you do? No. Sarah moved closer, drawn by something she didn't want to examine too closely. But I'm starting to. The space between them evaporated. Dante's hand came up to cup, her face, his touch gentle despite the violence those hands had committed. Sarah. Her name was a question, a warning, an invitation. She answered by rising on her toes and pressing her lips to his. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, two people testing boundaries they'd carefully maintained. Then Dante made a sound low in his throat and deepened it, his other hand sliding into her hair, pulling her closer. Sarah's hands found his chest, feeling his heart hammer beneath her palms. This was insane. Reckless. Blurring lines that should stay clear. But God, it felt right. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. We shouldn't have done that. No, Sarah agreed. We shouldn't have. It complicates everything. I know. Sarah. He pulled back just enough to look at her. I don't do halfway. If this becomes something, if we cross that line, I'm all in. You need to know that. What are you saying? I'm saying the contract is just paper. What I feel for you, what I'm starting to feel, that's real. And I don't know how to fake that anymore. Sarah's heart raced. Dante, we barely know each other. I know you'd do anything for your son. I know you're stronger than anyone gives you credit for. I know you see me. Really see me. And you're not running. His thumb traced her lower lip. That's enough for me to know I want more than 2 years. More than a fake marriage. More than whatever we agreed to in that contract. I can't think straight when you're this close. Then don't think. Just feel. He kissed her again, slower this time, and Sarah felt herself falling into something dangerous and inevitable. When he finally left, returning to his own room with one last lingering kiss, Sarah sat on her bed, touching her lips, trying to process what had just happened. She'd married Dante Caruso to save her son. But somewhere along the way, she'd started falling for the man behind the monster. And that, more than any contract or threat or danger, terrified her most of all. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.